Apple announces new iPad Pro with M1 chip. Looks like we're sticking with the M1 branding, chip selection rather than a 14X. Curious where they go from here. A 15 per square meter next year, yearly a series with M series on a slower cycle, M2 in everything next year with minor tweaks for each device. I'd bet my left ass cheek that they're sticking with a series chips for iPhones and regular iPads, and M series chips for Macs and iPad Pros. So there goes the argument that it's impossible to run macOS on the thing because it's different hardware. Come on Apple, let me run whatever I want on it, give me virtualization support. Parallels on the iPad would be quite useful. Xcode. Now there is no reason not to, lol. I suspect we're gonna see big changes on iPadOS 15. 100%. It is puzzling why Apple would release these now instead of with iPadOS 15 in September. Happy to see this, but performance has never been the issue with iPad. Now more than ever, iPadOS needs to be much more than it is now. Otherwise, it's just power wasted. Power wasted should be the tagline for every iPad Pro ever. Can we get that 1000 nit display on MacBook Pro, please? I think they're always gonna reserve the best screens for their XDR display in iPads, although I could see iMac screens being improved, although not to the extent of XDR. That surprised me. I wasn't expecting any M-series chips to go into any iOS devices. I had assumed that the A-series and M-series would continue on parallel tracks. I know Apple has long maintained that iOS and macOS would never merge, but I can picture a future OS that supersedes them both and runs on everything from the Mac Pro to the Apple Watch. That's certainly a logical way to go. But then why did they fork iPadOS from iOS? We went from iOS and macOS to watchOS, tvOS, iOS, iPadOS and macOS. Are they going to bring it back down to just one OS eventually? Someone will find a way to put macOS on it. Is there different version of the M1 chip or are its abilities the same whether it's in an iPad or iMac? Cool, M1. They need to seriously fix the Files app to be able to take advantage of that though. I'm getting content unavailable, bugs that have been in there from the introduction of the Files app. Kinda hard to do video editing when you can't access the files. Also, another well-known bug is all audio apps go missing mid-session and you have to restart to show them as installed again. Pretty sure both are related to number of apps installed and number of files in the Files app. I'm pissed the 11 inches doesn't get the XDR screen. Edit. God, this is such a first word problem. Mini LED is still quite new, it's probable they don't have the yield to do both sizes yet, or it would have pushed the cost up too much. Honestly, we are getting to the point that the hardware is outdoing what the software can provide. With the Macs going to the M1 style chips and now the iPad, I see only one possible conclusion is that the next big software update will combine the best of both iPadOS and macOS. We are already more than halfway there and iPadOS is really the only thing holding it back at this point. My prediction is that after this happens we might see the iPad Pro in the future take the place of what the MacBook Air has in the market as the entry-level and lightweight Mac. Either way, a fusion of iPadOS and macOS is in my opinion the best way moving forward if done right. Honestly, that would be perfect for me. I have 2018 iPad Pro and an M1 MacBook Air. If I could run things like RStudio on the iPad, and ideally plug in my UW monitor via Thunderbolt, I'd replace them both. Seems wasteful to have both at this point. I'm looking forward to WWDC. For sure a giant leap forwards for the iPad Pro, but I hope the move to include an M1 chip signals something big coming with iPadOS 15 or Apple's gonna have a tough time justifying why someone should drop the same amount of money on a 12.9 iPad over a MacBook Air with the same chip yet capable of running so many more of the apps which creatives rely on every day to get work done. Until then, this thing, amazing as the iPad Pros are as someone with the 2018 12.9 which still holds up as an absolutely superb tablet, is just an expensive overpowered toy which can't really be depended on in any real capacity as a creation device. When even Apple doesn't even think its own Pro apps are suitable for running on a supposedly Pro iPad, why should developers? Even the ones which have made it so far, Photoshop, Illustrator, are pared down barebones versions of their Mac equivalents, and even the most competitive video editing apps available really being unable to hold a candle to the apps they're trying to emulate. Excited for it to be hobbled by iPadOS. Edit. Take your Pro Display XDR workflow on the go. Carrot without carrot your carrot entire carrot Pro carrot OS carrot lol. Would be an instant buy if I could do any serious programming on it. Wow, this caught me off guard. Tim in disguise caught me off guard. iPad OS makes these performance improvements pointless. To this day, simple tasks like saving a PDF from an email or organizing files and documents is made obnoxious because of how clunky iPad OS is. And multitasking with multiple open windows is also annoying on iPad. All the power in the world packed into the iPad will never beat flexibility and convenience of non-iPadOS computing devices. I loved my 2018 iPad Pro, but I still always use a Windows-based computing device any day for accomplishing actual work, simply because file management sucks in iPad as does working with multiple windows open at once. iPadOS basically needs to become more like Windows. Otherwise, for most people the iPad is going to be a cool fancy device to watch YouTube videos on or reply to texts. Yup. It's got an M1, it's got Thunderbolt, it's got up to 2 TB of storage and 16 GB of memory. Why can't I just run macOS on it? People in this thread complaining about OS but me over here dreaming about bigger Procreate files with more layers. Drooling face. Let me run macOS on it and I'm in. Exactly. I'm a little tired of my iPad just being a larger version of my iPhone, lol. I get iPadOS, but I want something that is more distinguishable. Mini LED only on the big model sucks. I'm in the market for a new iPad and I would have happily paid the premium to get the 11 inches Pro instead of the Air, but I don't want to go up to 12.9 and spend an extra $300 on top of the extra $200 from Air 11 inches Pro. It's not even the price bump. I don't want the giant iPad that's 50% heavier. But man, I really wanted the new screen tech. Now I'm trying to decide on 11 inches with no new screen or wait another year and hope they don't keep that exclusive to the giant model. It still runs iPadOS. iPad Pro needs to run macOS. This is actually ridiculous at this point. It has Thunderbolt 4. To transfer what? Files to the Hobbled Files app in iPadOS? Hardware is totally wasted on iPadOS. Edit. It's also portrait-oriented. The camera is still in the portrait orientation. Every demo shows it in landscape. Make it a landscape device already, what the hell? It has Thunderbolt 3, which is basically USB 4. Overpowered, crippled by software until Apple does something revolutionary with iPadOS 15. On a positive note, it will be future-proof for years to come. Yay, I'm holding back my criticism until WWDC. Lol, at comparing the M1 to an 11-year-old tablet to pad those numbers. Edit. More figgy. Because they definitely need to pad those. $1,799 will get you the one with 16 GB RAM, ouch. CURSED. That shit was way too uncanny valley for me. Photographer and filmmaker here. Sorry, M1 and XDR display is cool, but if it runs iPadOS still the specs at this point are irrelevant. Hobbled by a watered-down version of Adobe Lightroom and PS is a complete joke, no FCPX or Premiere, no full desktop versions of any Pro apps. If you make iPad apps you can't even use Xcode and design them on an iPad. You'd have to buy a Mac just to make iPad apps. I'm struggling to see why this is an upgrade over my completely already overpowered 2020 iPad Pro that has the same software limitations as the 2021. I absolutely love how they said Divinity Original Sins 2 can now be played on a portable device. Switch. Am I joke to you? Given the Switch has to run the game at a dynamic 648p max. It's probably fair to say this iPad might be the first time you can actually play this game on a mobile device at HD or better. Thanks for watching. If you liked this video, be sure to hit the like button, subscribe and click the bell icon so you don't miss more awesome videos.